go.
Hello, I'm Derek Olson, and you might know me either through the blog and YouTube channel Old Wolf Workshop Studio. You also might know me from my newer venture, my newsletter that I've been publishing over on Substack called My Love Letter to Good Hours. Either way, it's been a long time since I've done any kind of video shop tour. I love looking inside people's shops, seeing all the solutions and things they've done, and I like to do that too. I think it's been, 16 or 17 might have been the last time I shot a shop tour in this space, and I've changed quite a few things. I'll admit, this is the second time I'm shooting this because I managed to screw up all the footage the first time. The last time I shot it out here early in the morning. I had a cup of coffee in my hand. Tonight, it's an early evening after work, and I'm out here with a little bit of bourbon on a big cube with a twist of orange. Definitely my favorite way to wind down after a day in the operating room. But without any more BS from me, let's see what's in the shop. So I will start off over here at the door with my work apron that I put on most of the time when I come in here. And back in this corner, yeah, it's not too far in shadow. This is where my automotive tools are. This is where the majority of my automotive tools are. Tool chest that was my Grandpa Ray's tool chest that I've since taken and turned into mine. I managed to keep a good amount of tools in this little chest, and then see if we can keep the thing from falling apart. I got a couple more shelves full of jack stands and impact wrench, cordless impact wrench, chunks of wood, tire chocks, all those kind of things hanging out up on top. Ramps in the corner, trouble lights on the side. What I have right here is a piece that was here next to the door. This is a old Rockola soda machine that I picked up thinking it would be kind of a fun thing to have in the shop. Also kind of a fun chance to do a restoration project on something that's completely different than furniture or cars or anything like that. And it runs and it works just fine. It just was aesthetics that needed to get polished up and fixed up. The trouble is it takes up a big amount of room in the shop. My shop is not climate controlled. I just run fans out here in the summer and sweat a little bit, and I run a little, I'll show you my little heating setup that I run out here in the winter when it gets too cold in here. It is an insulated space. I just don't have the things that it normally should be. And it turns out that the humidity here in western Wisconsin is too high for this thing to operate outdoors because the condenser just freezes over into a huge block of ice sitting out here in the summertime, running away. And it's just not feasible. And the beast, it weighs more than some automobiles, I think. The beast just is too heavy to get into the house. It'd be fun to have it down in my my basement studio too. It's just not a thing. I could never get it down there, not with 8 guys helping me lift it. So hopefully this thing, I'll find a buyer for it. Moving around, I guess counterclockwise from the door to the shop is a restoration project. It's still a little bit ingoing, but is mostly done. I had Gary's a good friend. A friend actually gift me. The man's a great collector. He collects hundreds of things. more than anybody can imagine, I think, more than even he imagines, I think. And somewhere along the way, years ago, he picked up this Velocipede scroll saw, Barnes Velocipede scroll saw. Oh, I have an original advertisement for it too in the house that I'm going to get framed and put up. But there was a crack on the table when I got it. He just gave it to me. He said, "You guy who likes demonstrating woodworking, this looks like a great thing to demonstrate," and sure the hell is. And it was in mostly working order. The biggest hitch I had was the belt. You see, from moving it around, the belt is right now not connected. But at the moment, I had to make this belt from scratch belting. I know there's a guy out there that makes these belts. I couldn't get him to return a phone call or an email. So I made it myself. Spent 2 whole days punching holes in this leather belt. Not like 16 hours of punching holes, but it was a taxing, repetitive job, so I took some time. Because the holes catch in the sprocket above, and then the wheel down here is what turns the sprocket above and moves the saw blade up and down in the scroll saw. The trouble I have is the belt can stay on for 5 minutes and it can stay on for 30 seconds and then it falls off. I have the belt falling off a lot. I might have gotten it just 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch too long, too much sag. Gosh, it was a really difficult thing to try and figure out and get connected and get all the holes to line up just like they should. I do have some ideas on what I can do to improve the grip of the belt to give the lower wheel a little bit more circumference. We're going to see how those ideas I have pan out in the future. Moving around again a little bit more, on this far wall I have my hoard of wood. There's some good stuff up there, there's some questionable stuff up there, but it's all my stuff, so I love it all. Then, kind of here on the corner, I have my blacksmithing setup. I have an anvil and a leg vise set up on the tree stump here. I have a small rivet forge and some fire brick kind of tucked in behind it on a nice day when I need to do some, if I need to make some nails, if I need to make some, I'm not great at making hinges, but if I need to make some hinges, if I need to bend some metal to my will, so to speak, I can pull the rivet forge out to the driveway, out through the garage doors, and I give this a little bit of a wiggle out from where it is to, and I can get my metal work done here. I wouldn't even call myself a middling blacksmith. I'm maybe I should take another sip of bourbon. I just pounded it until I get it as close to right as I possibly can. I have no real art in it when I work at it. But moving forward, I have an old Milwaukee Delta joiner here that is another someday to restore to brands as nice and as new as I can. I've had it for many years. It works. It'll flatten the edge of a board for me just fine. The blades have a little nick in it that leave a little bit of a trail that I plane out with a hand planer. But if I need a lot of heavy planing work done, this is my boy. And I know it's kind of tucked in here against the table saw, but this table saw, this old rigid table saw, has got a nice lift system that puts it on wheels. And it's easy to move into and out of the place, which is why I'm fine moving it over here in front of the wood pile. In the past, I had it over in the corner over there, further along the way. I decided to move my bandsaw over there, because bandsaw used to kind of sit over here. Bandsaw isn't on wheels. Bandsaw made getting to the wood stash a little bit more difficult. Now I can just move this thing in and out where I want to. And it's easier to now move it into the middle of the shop if I need to do lots of long runs and things like that. The only hang up I have at this moment is I used to, on a cabinet next to where it's sat, have my little box of accessories, table saw accessories, push sticks, things like that. right next to it. And now I have no real place to hang it. I think what I might do is just drill and use some machine tools and machine screws, excuse me, and attach it to the side of the table saw here. It won't be as convenient as it was before, but it'll be fine. This cabinet over here is my main metalworking area. It has all my metalworking tools and a variety of hammers, nail headers, things like that hanging on this wall and accessible. I got my nice big machinist vise here, and I got a bench grinder here. And this is where all the cold metalworking kind of happens when I don't have to heat it up and pound it on an anvil. Again, this isn't something I have to do often as a woodworker, but I really do try to be more of a generalist maker than just a straight woodworker. And in those respects, having a place, a set off area where I can work metal by itself without leaving metal filings on my woodworking bench where they can gum up my hand planes, nick and burr the blades, things like that. I don't have to deal with worrying about any of the debris over on the woodworking side of the shop if I have the metalworking side over here. Underneath here is my handheld power tool collection. My router. Usually I have my skill saw down here. That's off at a different location right now. Recip blade. I got a number of, and this is my box of power sanders, and that's more drills and heat gun, jigsaws, things like that. I also keep my a toolbox for doing electrical work down here. I keep a toolbox for doing plumbing work down here. A couple of those things are off in other locations doing work of their own. All right, so this corner of the shop, kitty corner opposite from the door we walked in, has a lot going on over here. And I hope it all works out. This is one of the new big changes I made, was shifting things around and putting a little bit more things over in this corner. Here I have my bandsaw and my belt sander, disc sander machine. That when I got it, I was kind of like, I love this thing. It just is the answer so much of the time. Sometimes I desire one of those large 12-inch, 14-inch larger disc sanders that run on, three-phase power. There's part of me that so desperately wants one of those in this shop. I think it would be such a useful thing. Maybe someday in the future I'll find one and I'll have it. The wall back here behind these things is inspired by the Mythbusters. I believe it was M5 was the shop at the start of it. It might have been M7 by the end of it, but Jamie on Mythbusters had constructed this large, all the way to the ceiling metal rack that held a ginormous amount of totes, plastic totes, and all the totes are labeled all the way up. You had to get a forklift to get up all the way to the top ones on the top. And this is my take on that, even though I don't have as much. I have, but I've loved these shelves ever since I built them. I got my Dremel tools all set in one of these. I got a bin for clothespins. I got a bin for bamboo skewers. Here's scroll saw blades and parts, rags, wire, all kinds of rattle spray cans. I got a thing for masonry, work gloves, just a box for kit bashing, which is building models or building things just from scraps and kits and parts, so I get like an interesting piece or something off of who knows what, and I just throw it in that box. And later on, when I'm looking for something like, well, I need to make a something for this to look like this kind of prop part, I might go digging in there to find it. A lot of fun. This organization over here has helped me so much at times. Over onto this side of it is what my kids coined a long time ago when they were young, Dad's Science Shelf, because it has all my chemicals and shellacs and paints and finishes on there. It's got my waxes on there, my dry hide glue granules are on here. I got salts and paint pigments and all those kind of things. That is the shelf where all those things live, along with an iron, like an old clothes iron, old crock pot that I use to heat up vinegar to take rust off of parts sometimes, or to take zinc off of parts sometimes. Yeah, so this is just the chemical area shop, and then on this side, this was also from my grandpa Ray after he passed away. The man worked at an auto parts store his entire, I can't say his entire life, but for my entire life, he worked at that auto parts store. And I kind of think that that's where this came from, but I'm not entirely sure. It is just a great apothecary with all these little metal drawers, and I brought it here. There were some of the drawers that were falling apart. I had to pop rivet them back together. I can see, and it is a fantastic organization for me, where I can just, I chip brushes, foam brushes, regular brushes. I can just come over here. Here's my drill press and table saw parts. This missing hole up here is where I keep my hot glue gun. The hot glue gun is down in the basement studio right now. So it's just down there. I was able to I pull the whole drawer out. I got the glue gun and the glue sticks. It just goes right where I need it to go. It's one of my favorite things is this, and the fact that it was my Grandpa Ray's is even better. Underneath that is my wood lathe. It is just a cheapy wood lathe, but it's been with me for a long time. I'm not a turner. I'm a woodworker who occasionally needs to turn wooden parts. So that's what this is about. The chisels are in a little rack back here behind it. But kind of one of the fun things hidden behind here, even a little bit more, is two Dutch tool chests that I'll show you in a second. Apologies for the little bit of handwork here. I hope I'm not too shaky or jittery. So I have two Dutch tool chests back here. This one is by far one of my favorite things that I own. I built this Conestoga wagon style toolbox, which is also another version of a Dutch tool chest, with Tom Latney, a blacksmith friend. And we built it as a class that we taught, like 2019. Tom taught the hinges and the hardware. The hardware is a little interesting, where they don't have a second leaf to them. They actually just have a staple that goes, I'm motioning my hands offside. I guess you can see the shadow. A staple, that's kind of fun, shadow puppets. A staple that goes through the wood and then clenches over, instead of having an actual secondary leaf that attaches to the wood. This is my traveling tool chest. I have, when I go to demo, when I go to teach, when I go to do lots of things, this is the one that I can throw a ton of my tools in, and everything short of a panel saw, it can handle. And it just works so well. Fits through doors. Just, I don't know. I can't gush enough about how much I love this thing and love working in and showing off this thing. My other one here used to be my travel tool chest. You can kind of see there's an Old Wolf Workshop Studio logo on the front, and then oldwolfworkshop.com, which isn't really that active of a site anymore that I've started this Substack. But this used to be my traveling tool chest. It is much bigger, wider. I found it to be more of a pain in the ass because I wanted to make it so wide at the start that fitting it through doorways when I travel with it is not so feasible. But it is currently the place where my wooden-bodied hand planes live, and some saws with that are projects, and one with some sentimental value in there. But when I'm working with wet wood, I kind of prefer to use wooden-bodied hand planes, less metal to wood contact, less staining, and so that's where they live for when I need them. We're now on the back wall of the shop. Moving on from the lathe, my trusty drill press here. Out of all the machines in my shop, if I were to, stationary machines in the shop, if I were to run in the building to rescue one in a fire, it'd be tough, but I honestly think the drill press would be the one thing that I would either rescue or be the first thing I would purchase after I was out. I can saw a ton of stuff by hand. Drilling holes well and straight, and how that translates not just with woodworking but metalworking and a variety of other things. The drill press is my favorite. It's my favorite stationary tool. Behind here is an old Black & Decker Workmate, the old heavy metal versions. Heavy metal. Fuck yeah. Heavy metal versions. And an auxiliary table that I clamp into the vise of that old Workmate when I want to create an additional work surface to do finishing on and things like that. It's super handy just to be able to throw up an extra basically 2x4 workspace when I need it. I especially like using that workspace when I'm working on cars, because I can just throw up that additional space. Parts and things like that can accumulate on it. I don't have to worry about it. This is my Nicholson bench. This is my travel bench, believe it or not. This whole thing, not the whole thing, it sticks out a little bit, slides into the back of our SUV. And I take this to go do travel demonstrations and things like that with. It used to be kind of backed up against the backside of my Rubo, so I had two benches with their backs against each other for a while, even though my Rubo is twice as long as this one is. And that worked fine, but it ended up being a crap collector, because I could push things off from the Rubo onto this bench, and then I didn't get such use out of this bench other than just holding things, which you see is what it's currently doing mostly anyway. One of the things I was able to do with tearing the entire shop out to, I guess I forgot that story. I had to empty the shop out in order to fit a car in here in order to do a big car job for my daughter. The car job failed. It was supposed to be replacing the oil pump, which is basically like doing a heart transplant on the car. The deeper we got, the more the rot was in there, so we both made the call that the car was just beyond saving. But that process of emptying out 4 loads of things out of my shop in order to make space for a car, I took them off to a storage unit, and then having the chance to rearrange things as I brought them back to the shop. I'm really pleased with what I've managed to, the puzzle pieces I've managed to move around in order to get things looking like they are. In the process of putting the shop back, I was also able to collect now in one spot all my projects that I have started and abandoned with the complete belief. I got rid of a bunch too, but these are the projects that I want to finish. I have a couple of 3-legged stake chairs that I have to make. I have this chest that actually I made and belongs to a friend, and it's started to pull apart because he uses it for reenactment, so it goes indoors, outdoors a lot. And the glue failed, and the nails actually failed along the joints. Reverie nails failed, and I'm going to blacksmith some straps to go around the corners and clench those in place. It will keep it from shifting and moving apart ever again. I got another chair, a boarded chair in pieces underneath there, waiting to go back together. A couple other things. This is, now they're all gathered in one spot. Now I see them every time I come in the shop, and they can just stare at me and shame me, and I can work my way through getting this pile of things done and getting this workbench to be something that's usable again as an ancillary bench for myself. The back wall here, I have up here this tool rack. This is where my froe and my hewing hatchet, my draw knives all hang. I have a bunch of chisels up here that are not very commonly used chisels, but I don't want to hide them in a drawer or hide them somewhere. I want to be able to see them, know where they are. And a couple other things. I have a large collection of these wooden miter boxes that I managed to pick up from a guy who's just, I think, wanted to get rid of them and wanted to get out of there. I couldn't see them going to waste, getting thrown away, so I just gathered them up and brought them here. Someday soon I'm going to have to try and sell those so that for a reasonable price to somebody, just to get them out of my hair and out of my shop. Before I move around behind the Rubo to the tool chest and everything, I just wanted the small collection of things I have collected on this side of the Rubo now. Garbage can sits here. Super important in the shop. I have my my draw horse here, my shaving horse here. This is Peter Galbert's plans and version. I got it so far, and I didn't bother to quite finish putting the footboard on here because I just kind of push it with my foot right in the middle. I got the piece for the footboard. I should probably just finish the thing. Here's the thing. I built it thinking I would use it a lot. Thinking that, you know, chair makers have to have this. The chair makers use these things. And over time, I've learned I can do a lot more work at the bench than I can here. I still love it. I think what I have to do is turn the corner from where I'm at and get more into chair making, which is what I want. And then once that happens, this will become a lot more useful because I'll be able to just come over here, sit down, clamp a piece in the vise, either with a draw shave or a plane. None of it will matter. Take down edges and shape things the way I want. I have a stump here that I use as a hewing stump when I need to take a rough board down to size really fast with a hewing hatchet. And then I got my couple of sawhorses that I built. Oh boy, this is really dark as I look in the screen. I got a couple of sawhorses sitting here. These things don't always sit here. They move around the shop constantly, but this is not a bad place for them to sit and rest right now. Over here, this corner of the shop, you know, I keep catching myself saying this is my favorite, that is my favorite. This shop is just one of my favorite places to be and to work, and it's my piece, and so it's all my favorite, so none of that matters. Starting in the front, here's my heating system, which is an oil radiant heater, and I have a fan that blows behind it, so it kind of kicks and circulates the air through it. It doesn't do a bad job. Only when the temperatures drop like 10, 20 more below is it not enough to keep it functional out here. The mixture of that, and I have a radiant heater right here above the spot where I stand and work most. I can do a lot of work out here no matter how cold it gets here in the winter. And then, like I said, in the summer when it's hot and sweaty and muggy, I just run that same fan. I just keep turning it so it's blowing on me as I'm working, and unless it's undoggedly hot, I'm doing just fine. Right behind those two things, actually, tucked here on the floor, is a nearly finished Dutch tool chest. That's right. We're up to 3 Dutch tool chests in this shop right now. Hold on. Spoiler, there's more. But here's another unfinished Dutch tool chest. This is the demo piece that I built, one of the 2 demo pieces that I built during the class. The other one is less finished than this one. It just really needs to get knocked together and finished up and hinges put on it, and it will be a fine finished Dutch tool chest. The trouble is I don't need another Dutch tool chest, and so why finish it at this point? So it sits here and it collects some dust at the moment, but I'll have to finish it someday soon. Maybe somebody will want it. Maybe I should do a raffle or something. Not a raffle. Giveaway? Sweepstakes? I don't know. Something like that. My pride and joy, one of my favorite things I've ever built is this traditional tool chest built in the anarchist tool chest style. I just adore working out of this chest. answers all my needs. It's become, over the years, the stickers and the things that I put under the lid, the little modifications I've made, this thing damn near encapsulates my personality, and my working, my making. Maybe bourbon and this wasn't such a great idea. My making philosophy for a lot of things. This is just, for sure, if the shop were on fire, I wouldn't be able to run in here and carry it out. But you know what I could do? Is I could shut the lid. And I'm almost 100% sure that every tool inside of here would survive. It's that bomb-proof of a thing, and I love it. The back corner here, I just have a whole bunch of clamp storage, and I have another tool chest back here on the side that I almost never touch. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm gonna go handheld and give you a tour of the inside of my tool chest. Well, I decided not to go handhold because I hate it, and I think it kind of a sucky way to do things. But this is the inside of my tool chest. The top till here this side has measuring, a number of my bevel gauges, some fine screwdrivers, a bevel monkey, knives, and this little bag has little odds and ends of like dowel centers and things like that. It keeps all these things here. I have a very fine little pry bar, which is a lifesaver sometimes, a couple of knives, and some setup blocks. I have a few more 1, 2, 3 setup blocks here, and this is primarily my marking area. I got my 45-degree squares over here, and then I have all my marking tools, and I got a dividers that actually belongs back here. Shame on me. Dovetail markers, things like that. Measuring tapes up here on top. You know what? Hold on. Next till down, this side is where I have all my spoke shaves. I have my a couple of chair making tools here. This side has more metal odds and ends and extras. It's got some bits. It's got a countersink on a wooden handle. It's got all my combination squares. And a couple razor blades. And, importantly, a bottle opener. Moving down one more till. This bottom till has a lot of drill and drill bit accessories in it. It's got my larger 16-ounce hammer. It's got my pinch sticks, drill bits. It's got my, up in the front here, which you can't see, is a decent collection of scrapers. Why was that tough? Scrapers. Decent collection of scrapers. And my block plane lives up here too. Oh, those are pinch dogs. You get into the bottom of the plane, bottom of the till. The back wall is a bunch of holes set in a board. These are some awls, dividers, a nail set, some gimlets, and a bunch of screwdrivers. A nice collection. If you drop down from there, I have my molding planes all kind of rolled up on their ends in a till. In front of the molding planes, I have a till that has all my metal-bodied planes. So from number 6 all the way to number 3, and a 81 scraper, and my joiner planes, like my rabbit plane and my plow plane here too. Along the front of the till, hanging on a couple of nails on this side. See if we could do this gently along this side. Up here I have actually my number 71 router plane hanging on a nail, and a couple of braces hang right here on the nails in the front. As you move more towards the front, this is the till for my long. We're gonna have to go a little handheld for this, I think. All right, working through the front of the till. In the bottom, this is the long till where I keep the long panel saws. I also keep my miter saw in here too, and a bigger, my larger 16-inch back saw. Along the front of the till are my smaller joinery back saws. I have a small tenon saw. Here's my dovetail saw and my carcass saw. This is a flush cut saw. And then I have a number of files that hang out here too. And my squares. My squares hang out, and my, not files, I guess you'd call them wood rasps, all hang out here up in the front. There's space underneath. This isn't as easy as some people make it look. Underneath the saws in the long saw till, that some odds and ends and tools that I almost hardly ever use are down there, but also along this far end is where I'm currently keeping my my chisels, my carving chisels. Oh, there up ahead, above my head, you can see I have two resaws, big kit resaws. The one in front is a Tom Fidgen style resaw that was made by a friend of mine, Mark Harrell over at Bad Axe Toolworks. That's actually his version that he gifted to me along the way. And then the saw behind that is a Roubo version, using the same hardware kit, but I made it a Roubo version made by me. I'm fortunate to have two of them. And so I mentioned that I had an additional tool chest down here, and I do. And on the front of it, it says W. Indall is painted on it still. This is the tool chest that my wife's father's great uncle or great uncle, I lose track sometimes on which one it is, used to transport his tools over from the old world, Scandinavia, Germany area of the world, to the United States, and he ended up in South Dakota shortly following that. And this is that tool chest. It is seen some miles. It still has tools from my father-in-law's farm that he grew up on. It's got a large collection of an odd number of well-used tools that I have not a whole lot of use for, but there's no way in hell I'm going to get rid of or liquidate because of what they are. So this chest can sit here. It's got some holes in the bottom where some water riders come in, and I have to go in once a year and basically clean out the mouse nests that find their way into there. Mostly what it does is sit here and remind me that there's a long history of things behind me, and it holds my miter saw miter box on top of it, one that I went through great painstaking processes to restore as far as I could. And then, of course, a decent amount of clamps in the back. It's taken years to acquire clamps, almost to the point where I pass them up when I see them at rummage sales or things like that for a good price, but I don't pass them all up. So a decent number of clamps is a boon to a maker. One of the things I forgot to talk about, because my butt was sitting on it when I was over here in the corner, is this might be one of the, I keep saying important. The whole shop's important. This might be one of the more important things that I have in the shop. I call it my wordy chair. It sits here in the corner most of the time. It's a little old schoolhouse chair. I don't know where my dad got it from, but I stole it from him. I put it in my shop a long time ago. It's It's there for the worries. It's there for, I can't figure out how this is supposed to go together. I can't figure out how this is working. I can't worry my way through this problem. I have to step away for 5 minutes. I don't want to step all the way out of the shop because that will completely interrupt my flow. But this is the chair that for decades out here has been my go-to to just step away, sit down, either cool off my brain with where it's going at, or work my way through the process of what I'm after. And super important. Above here, this is the shit collector shelf in the shop. I built it originally as a tool rack. This was going to be the place where I stored all my hand planes and things like that. That happened before I built a tool chest to store and work on it for my tools. So since then, it's just become the collector of all things not readily needed. A great number of nails and staples, staple guns up here, a collection of tins that I put smaller tools inside of, and maybe sharpening items inside of when I'm traveling or taking them to go teach or to demonstrate. Grinding wheel is here. I got my recipe box up here that I actually use as a recipe box in the shop. It's got a pen and all that there, but it's got cards for finishes, for hide glue, sort of nail ideas, sharpening things, for when to help me remember. I don't have to remember all the angles that I need to have in my mind when I'm going to resharpen a saw. I don't have to have those. I don't have to go re-look things up. I can just consult my notes here inside this little box for my brains is actually the label I put on the front of it. I have extra tools and planes up here, and then I have a little shelf that's just packed full of both materials to do gilding with and exotic woods and cool little pieces of wood that us woodworkers can't help but collect. And then veneering stuff, sheets are all the way at the very top. All right, so this is kind of a newer change to this area of the shop. At one point, I used to have kind of it was a tackle box, a plastic tackle box, but it had a number of little drawers in it, just like a machinist's chest might do, a machinist tool chest might have. And I had a great number of small things in there, and I chose to take those things out and to repackage them into different areas of the shop as I reworked the tools as I came back through this. But then I took it out of this window, and I used to keep my cordless drills up here too, and I built a different thing for that. So I was able to, this organizer is just a great number of little bins and pieces. And go handheld, ready? I know it looks like a disorganized mess to the layman's eyes. To me, I know where everything is, and every bin is located in here, and it's a nice, easy, accessible thing for me. And what I like the most is this bar that I attached across the front of this this thing that holds a great number of dividers and an even greater number of pliers, so that all these things are right here, right where I'm working, at easy to reach spaces. And then over here, when I reworked my grandpa's tool chest into just a straight automotive tool chest this last time, this little toolbox was in the top of it this whole time, and it actually was kind of taking up, I was using it to store wrenches, box end wrenches, but it wasn't big enough to store the box end wrenches I was trying to store in it, so it was a mess. I pulled it out of there and I moved it over to here on this side of the shop, and right now it's holding all the little wood ends, wood blocks. These are pads for when I use my holdfasts on my workbenches. I got my V blocks for when I have to plane round wood against the plane stock. All the little wooden bits and bobs, dowels, wedges, all those kind of things that the workbench kind of runs on, that nobody ever writes about or talks about, but because they're kind of, you use scraps and you use disposable things to do these with, so they're not precious, they're just there to do a job. I mean, I could use these blocks as pads for holdfast just as easy. I can use them for pads for clamps when I'm clamping a delicate piece and I don't want the piece to have clamp marks in it. Below that, I moved some of these jars of water and bottle of water out of the way. I have my hot plate and my double boiler for heating hide glue. And then a couple of tape dispensers right here with some painter's tape and some plastic tape on there ready to go. We're going to move on a little bit. This on the top here is, again, this is my sawtill. And I built this thinking that that's how I wanted to store and use my saws, until I realized that my saws sitting out here in a non-climate controlled shop were just subjected to heating and cooling, and that would make them rust along with all the dust that would get on them. So my saws that I use regularly moved to my tool chest once I finished building that. Currently it does hold a number of saws. All my coping saws and frame saws are here. Here's my nice big frame saw that hangs on the front here. A couple of things that are just a little bit too big to regularly keep in the tool chest over there, but mostly it just kind of sits here as a nice background for when I work. It's got a handful of things that I reach for on a great occasion, but not very often. The drawer underneath here, I might use this pencil sharpener more than I use anything. The drawer underneath here has coping saw blades, some saw rests that I almost never use, and some guide blocks for saw sharpening that I also never use. But here it is nonetheless. I'm going to talk about the cabinet. Well, let's move on to this. This is my new drill bit station. It has all my, I can reach in there, pop it open, grab the drill bit I want. Go back to work. It also has some scalpels and X-Acto knives, countersinks, all those kind of things have moved into this newest piece. And if you follow on the Substack, you'll know that I wrote about it recently. It still indeed has some storage to expand, as this is still an empty. It's still an empty box, so we'll have to find room for something. Underneath that is now where I store my drills. I always thought these drill storage solutions were kind of hanky, and then this seemed like the perfect answer to it when I was building this rack. So now I'm doing something that I always thought was kind of weird and dumb. I got all the way down on the floor for this. I might not be able to get back up. We'll see what happens in the video. Hope I don't record it. This is a handful of cabinets that I brought home, this back against the wall bench. I went to a restore, found this one double cabinet and the matching single cabinet, brought them home, and I also that same day bought a hollow core closet door that I figured I could just throw on top of it. It turned out to be serendipity that the whole thing ended up being the perfect end-to-end length that I was able to fit this rack with these parts and toolboxes in between, and it covers the exact length of that closet door. It's great. It's amazing. So these are by far, I use it a lot. Stealing this system from Adam Savage's Sortimo system that he uses in his tested workshop. I love the way it worked. I love his improved way that works now. If you haven't seen it, go check him out. But I stole from that to help me organize a great deal of the things that I had in my shop that I was having trouble organizing. And that includes, I have a pull-out for nails and tacks. This is wood screws. This is just general screws. This is miscellaneous parts, plates, angle irons, things like that. I got a box for bolts, a box for nuts and washers. Here's my taps for tapping holes for threading screws and things like that in it. I got one for leather work at the bottom. Here's a great number of my waxes and shellac flakes in here. That is a placeholder. I can move those back over to the science shelf at any point should I decide I need that box for something more important. Perhaps I'll need to expand my bolts or my nuts and washers at some point in the future. It would be amazing to have the selection that Adam Savage has, where he basically has an entire hardware store in his shop. That just isn't feasible for most of us mere mortals. But this is a box of my joinery plane parts. So all the little parts that go with my router plane, things like all those blades and all those things, rather than keeping them all in separate little places in the tool chest, I have them all right in here in this, and I can pull them out. This is a chair making toolbox with wedges and the drill bits that you use, and this is one for veneer tools. This is one to do when I pull out and I need my tools for string inlays, hinges and hasps, pocket screws, top rivets. It's amazing. I love it. This drawer holds all my tapes, all my extra tapes, duct tape, painter's tape, marking tape, all those kind of things. My first aid kit is in this drawer, the lower cabinet here, along with some spring clamps, and the garbage bags live down there. Over here on the side, this is a absolute junk drawer. Every house, every shop deserves a junk drawer where you can throw all the odds and ends that you never think you'll need, but they live in it. This is my junk drawer. I made sure I had a junk drawer when I had it. Underneath here is my sandpaper, and then this is also where I store extra tool bags that you get and that I might need for travel and for going and working or demonstrating off-site. It's also, I keep a good number of padded moving blankets in there. So as I work on a piece, I start to pad the work surface more and more as I work, because that decreases my chances of putting a dumbass ding in it. Moving our way, almost completing this this section, and then we'll talk about my workbench in the middle. As we've swung the whole perimeter around the shop, and it really does show you how important my Rubo workbench is to me, that it's the centerpiece by which the entire rest of the shop revolves around. This is my sharpening station with my Arkansas stones on it. I must have knocked the oil over earlier. And then in the drawer right below it, all my supplies and all my things that I need to do the sharpening with, including some of the weird strops and things like that you sometimes need to get into weird places. But mostly, this is where I go to dive in to get my pieces that I need. This Craftsman tool chest here used to hold all my drill bits before I built that cabinet. Now, I mean, it still has my brace bits in the very top of it. And very long drill bits live on the top of this. But moving down, this is an entire drawer full of pliers and vice grips now, all lined up, organized. I can see every hole is filled. If something's missing, I'm missing something. And I'll know it. Below that, entire drawer of screwdrivers and nut drivers. These were all kind of a mess, jumbled in one drawer. Now they're kind of spread out, and I can look and I can see what I have. Oh, I just backed into the vise. This cabinet is by far one of the things that I've built that I appreciate quite a bit. I mean, my tool chest is way up there, but there's not many fancy things that I've built that I adore. I usually can just pick them apart. I know there's a big heavy train going by right now. I'm not going to stop. I just hope you can hear me over them. The original build was very plain. I decided to take that plain idea. I like the idea of a cabinet or a piece that looks very simple. Blue milk paint, maybe a little bit of decoration with these stamps on the front, and then the pictures and that I've hung on it over the years. that looks simple from the front, but then as you open it up and you look inside, looks fancy from the inside. It's just like opening up something that some of those old tool chests that you see out there on the market like that, where it looks like a beaten up, busted up tool chest, like my father-in-law's great-grandfather's grand-uncle's tool chest. But then you open it up and there's a great deal of marquetry and inlay and fanciness that's on the inside that really shows the character on the inside, and I wanted to kind of replicate that here. By doing, I did a parquetry panel on the inside of the panel, and then decided to cover it up with some postcards and some cool things that I like anyway. I did veneering to the fronts of all the drawers, and every drawer has the same. So these are the outside, the inside, the outside are the same wood veneer as the inside, the outside, the inside here, all the way across. And then this, I use it. It's my nail cabinet. And I keep nails in it. I keep hardware in it. This whole line down this side, finishing nails. Here, I have a little bit more expensive wedge Tremont nails in the middle and the inside. You go up on top, and you'll find some more nice hardware parts and some things like that that I've managed to collect in the years. This is my nail cabinet that I keep my nails in. Glues, sprays, adhesives, things like that, WD-40. They all kind of sit on a wooden shelf on top of there that I screwed up there. And this is my joinery bench. This is the second bench that I built. And it is just it's about 4 to 6 inches taller than my normal workbench, so it allows me to stand up a little bit straighter when I'm doing things. I often just keep my Moxon vise here just hold fasted on the front of it, so I use this vise a ton. I don't have a vise on my my Roubeau. This is the vise that I use for a lot of my woodworking if I need a vise, and so I keep it here. It was over on the back wall where the Nicholson was, and over there, you'd think its utility would be useful no matter where you put it, but over there it seemed like I was always just piling stuff on it instead of actually using this taller joinery bench and doing more bend over work as I used here. But I think moving this bench over to this corner, which is where the pop machine, the soda machine used to be, will work mostly because I used to put my Nicholson bench here on the Roubeau right behind me. So this is all in the same spot of my thinking about where I go in my shop to do my dovetailing. And now perhaps my back won't hurt so much at the end of the day because I'll be able to stand up straighter while I'm doing it. If you kept count with me, this makes Dutch tool chest number 4 and number 5 in this workshop. Now, one of these two chests is leaving. It's kind of a bargain deal at the end of our class. I got to keep the prototype Dutch tool chest that we built for that class, hardware and all, with the understanding that Tom I don't need another tool chest, he says. What I'd like is a place to starve. Where is that whiskey? Yeah, a place to store my carving chisels, because I have them on a number of tool rolls, and I just like to be able to, when I have a class that I'm going to go do carving with, wood carving and things like that, I just like to be able to grab that tool chest and go, or grab that tool chest and work. And I love the idea of the Dutch tool chest used to hold carving chisels, where the top of the tool chest is where you could keep the mallets and the squares and all the larger style of tools. And then the bottom would just be a series of drawers that you would be able to pull out and access to get, your chisels all lined up in a row on the inside. I've kind of taken that idea and ran real far with it, because the drawers, as I've made them, the drawer fronts are all carved, but the drawer front is not carved solo. I took one large piece of wood and I carved two matching panels. And I took those panels over and I sawed them into the drawer fronts individually. So as the drawer is assembled together, as the drawer gets assembled together, it will appear to be the entirety of a carving. But then you can grab the handles that are attached and pull out each individual drawer. That's not the beginning or the end of the insanity that I have planned into this build. But I will talk more about this as I build on it more. I just wanted it to be something super special for a super good friend of mine, Tom. And in order to make sure it was special, I decided I was going to build two so that I could screw up one and have one that was really good. Because if you're building one of these chests, I might as well build two of these chests. It's not that much more work in the form as I'm going through it. So that's two. That's more Dutch tool chests in the shop right now until I get these done. Then there'll only be one, and the carving tool chest will live on the joinery bench on the back side of that, so that I can have my carving tools right there at the ready where I like to do my carving anyway. This is my Roubo. Mike Seamson almost insisted on calling a Holstoffel because I didn't do the through tenons on it. It just sits on a couple of button nubs. But these were 12-foot long barn beams that Mike Seamson helped me plane down, straighten, and glue up into a solid bench top that is 4+ inches thick and 12 feet long. It is a embarrassment of riches to be able to work at this bench every day that I can. This right here, this is where I stand and where I spend most of my time when I'm out here in the shop. I've got my chisels right here at the ready to go. I've just always found, I did keep them in my tool chest for a while, but it's just too easy and convenient to have them right here on the back, along with a couple of other things that I constantly use. I got an awl here for marking with. I have a small hammer that I use for driving nails or tapping things around. I have my little plane hammer, a little brass hammer that I use to adjust the blades on my molding planes and things like that. And of course, this is my favorite little Stanley square that I love, and of course a big wooden Mjolnir to knock things around with. This is where I find peace. This is where I find serenity. I feel like I'm supposed to have some big final wrap up on this video, some epiphany after I wander around my shop for a minute and give you all kind of the quick and dirty tour. But I don't. I hope I didn't ramble on too long. I think it's fascinating to look at other people's shops, to see the way that they do their work. I think seeing inside everybody's shop is a little bit like getting a chance to just peel open their skull and read the braille of their mind. But because shops are a very visceral depiction of a maker, and by far this is one of the cleanest my shop has been in a long time. But overall, it's how I like to keep it. So it's not too hard once it's here to keep it that way, just by being a little bit mindful and a little bit careful. Gosh, I can't wait to get that Rockola soda machine out of here. That'll make everything just seem so much more open and better. But outside of that, I'm really happy with all the changes I've made here, putting the shop back together. I look forward to working in this space, and you know, it never ends. The refinement of a space never really truly ends. You just kind of you always have to fit a new piece in, or take a broken piece back out. It's a pretty constant ebb and flow. Now, with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank you for coming to visit. I'd like to thank you for either watching or reading the content that I am privileged enough to put out. I wish you all have a good day, and cheers. Go get yourselves a drink. You deserve it. I'm going to go pour another now.